So my lady last Thursday seen in the paper or on Facebook maybe that they were doing the lighting ceremony for the tree in Chicago. And I didn't want to, like seem like I was criticizing her ideas or anything like that. So I kept it to myself. But my first thought was, well, that'd be nice if you could go down there and, not worry about getting shot. But like I said, I went ahead and kept that to myself. And then guess what happened?
There was another shooting at 140 South Dearborn where there were two additional victims. One of those victims, a 14-year-old, sustained multiple gunshot wounds and died. There were 5 guns that were recovered.
And it's funny because you come across these people online that are like, Chicago isn't that bad. Oh, Chicago ain't like that, rah, rah, rah. We're talking about the city that produced drill rap. Talking about the city that produced Lil Durk. Talking about the city that celebrates King Von. Shit. And I almost forgot the broad daylight jewelry store heist right out of a fucking Batman movie that happened, a month or two ago. And then the governor of the state taking a picture with one of the heisters. Talking about a city where not only was there a shooting during what was supposed to be wholesome holiday fun over the weekend. Well, just last week we had this happen.
Attorney Andrew Boutros described Lawrence Reed as a man with a very long criminal history who has had plenty of second chances until today, confirming that Reed is the same person who was charged with setting a fire outside of the Thompson Center back in 2020. Now, the 13-page criminal complaint that was released in advance of today's hearing contained several screenshots taken from the CTA's surveillance video of the incident. It is that video that led investigators to determine that this was an unprovoked attack.
Oh yeah, and this was just last week too.
It started as students yelling and following the family quickly turned violent. As a video shows, punches were thrown. Both mom and son tossed to the ground as the attack continued. 33-year-old Korshonda Hatter attacked Monday while walking her 2 kids home from school. Hatter and her 9-year-old son left seriously injured.
Meanwhile, Brandon Johnson has been fighting tooth and nail to prevent the DOJ, ICE, Homeland Security, whoever Trump is sending, from entering his city and trying to get things under control, acting like, oh, they don't need any help with the problem, when it's pretty clear that they need all the help that they can get. I'm sure everybody saw the gentleman in Memphis after Trump sent the boys down there, talking about it's the first time he's been able to walk to the gas station in 20 years. First time in 20 years you don't hear gunshots every day. First time in 20 years he able to grill out with the kids and not have to worry about somebody running up on him. That's wild. And then you got DC going its longest period and I don't even know how long without a shooting. Meanwhile in Chicago you got people lighting folks on fire in the subway. You got gangs of little kids jumping mothers and their children. You got YNs downtown doing shootings in the middle of fucking holiday celebrations. But none of this should surprise you because it's always a part of the authoritarian playbook to sow chaos so that you can take control when the people cry out for it. This isn't even just leftism or communism or socialism or anything like that. It is authoritarianism outright. And this is the path that they lay out in order to get there. Cause chaos, destroy the system, and then present themselves as the solution. Now, I know that it's easy to look at these 3 instances in such a short period of time and, realize how bad it is. But I also understand that it's possible to point out, much in the way that the media pointed out every single unarmed black man that was shot in 2020, 2021, and because they reported on every single one, you assume that there's those they're not. So you assume there's way more than there actually is. But when you find out that no, they're actually reporting on every single one they can get their hands on, well, you realize it's actually not that high a number. The exact opposite thing is happening here, because usually you don't hear about the shit that goes on in Chicago. So I could see how somebody might make the argument that something similar to the shooting of unarmed black men is happening here, as far as the reporting, you know, that they're trying to get every single incident out to rile up the base or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, if you take time to like read the Chicago Sun-Times or local, you know, publications from the city of Chicago that are reporting mostly on Chicago or largely on what's going on in Chicago, you will see these shootings every week in the summer. 40, 50 people shot in a weekend type shit. Every summer, every weekend, every year. So if anyone sees this and wants to make the argument that they're just over-reporting to try and, you know, create a narrative, I urge you to start reading the local Chicago fucking papers, because I only live about 100 miles outside the city. And I can tell you that we get the local Chicago papers out here. And I started reading them back 2008 probably. I was working at a gas station, so I didn't have much to do. Smartphones weren't a thing yet. And that's when I realized how fucked Chicago was. And it's only getting worse, which is shocking. It seems almost like they're actively trying to turn that city into a third world nation. And it's sad. It is sad because Chicago is an absolutely gorgeous city. It is one of the nicest shorelines you can find in the country. You know, when they developed that city, they blocked off something like 23 miles of the shore for public use. And they've kept it that way. And it's beautiful. The city itself is also beautiful. But I don't even want to go up there anymore. You know, me and my buddies, we used to go up there in my late teens, my early 20s. I used to skateboard. And we would go up there. We'd get there 8 a.m., park the car. We wouldn't make it back to that car until midnight. We'd skate through everywhere in the city without a second thought. And, you know, we knew it was dangerous, but everyone left us alone. We managed. You know, there is always, or at least there used to be, kind of an unspoken, you know, respect between gangbangers and skateboarders, you know. Totally different folks, but generally gangbangers realize, like, yo, those dudes are out there fucking their own shit up every day. We might as well just leave them alone, you know. Today, if I were 19, 20, still as careless as I was, I still don't think I'd go up there. Because they don't care no more about nothing and nobody. I mean, there used to be, you know, as much as you might want to argue against it, there was, in fact, a code and a rule of ethics before the feds broke up leadership. And, well, basically the same thing happened in Chicago that happened in the Middle East when they took out leadership. The groups didn't go away, they just fractured, started warring more, and without leadership became more and more violent. But this is exactly what they want. Like I said, this is exactly what you're going to get or continue to get under Democratic leadership, whether it be on a local scale or a national scale. You see it in Chicago. You see they did it to the country with illegal immigrants. You see what's happening right now in Dearborn, Michigan. They're here to sow chaos, folks. And, you know, it might sound unaccepting or authoritarian or whatever, but the fact of the matter is we need to get our shit together, and that means a whole lot of people need to be deported, put in jail, and otherwise dealt with. Hey, so it seems like these social media companies aren't too fond of my particular opinions, and it seems pretty apparent that they are trying to minimize my outreach. So if you like the content, hit the follow button, check back in daily because I'm posting almost every day. I hope you guys have a good one. Peace.